Hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well and everyone had a nice day. Today's video is going to be about a memoir that I just read. It's a book that I just purchased last week. I actually read it in a few days. It was a very fast read. It was written by a Hollywood star from the 80s that I was a huge fan of. He's still a working actor now, but when I was a kid, he was one of the biggest things in movies for me. He had done films like, I'm sure I'm not the only one that loves these films, but he had done movies like The Goonies, Stand By Me, The Lost Boys, and of course License to Drive. The book I am talking about is Corey Feldman's memoir, Coreyography. I actually bought this book last week. I read it in 3 days. It was a very fast read. Growing up, I was a huge fan of Corey Feldman. I was a fan of Corey Haim too, but not so much. Just because I think Corey Feldman was just in cooler movies when I was a kid. You know, he was in Gremlins, he was in Friday the 13th Final Chapter, he was in, of course, Goonies, Lost Boys. Even though Corey Haim was in that too, I went to see Lost Boys because I loved Corey Feldman. I thought it was cool that he was a vampire hunter in that. And I love the Edgar Frog character, still my favorite role he's ever played. License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream. You know, the list goes on and on. Stand By Me, I think, is, you know, that was the reason I saw that movie, was because of Corey Feldman. And I think I just kind of related to him. I was a kid, I was kind of a nerdy kid, I had glasses. And there was another actor in movies that had glasses and kind of looked like me a little bit, and I thought he was cool, and I said, hey, you know, maybe I could be cool like that. Or, I don't know how I thought as a kid, but, I think that's why I kind of latched on to him, because in like Friday the 13th Final Chapter, he liked horror movies and things like that, and I liked horror movies, and I was kind of the odd kid, so I think I just related to him. But this book is very well written, but it is also very disturbing. Corey Feldman really goes through his entire childhood talking about how he first got into acting, how he got the movies that he got in terms of, getting selected for movies like Gremlins, like The Goonies, like Lost Boys, and Stand By Me. But he also talks about the underside of Hollywood, what happens to some child actors, or tragically what happened to him and Corey Haim, in terms of pedophiles and pedophilia within the Hollywood system. Both Coreys were molested and or raped by pretty much big wigs within the Hollywood system. In fact, one of them is still, one of the biggest moguls in Hollywood right now, according to Corey Feldman. Of course, the names in the book are changed, but it's still very disturbing to read what happened to them, because as a child, watching these guys in movies, I had no idea that, none of us did, that this was going on. You did find out that both Coreys, of course, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, both had drug problems. Corey Feldman was able to, he talks in great detail about how he first got hooked on drugs, when it happened, how it spiraled out of control, how it almost destroyed his career, and then how he was able to successfully overcome his demons. Whereas Corey Haim, of course, we saw what happened to him, and unfortunately it led to his tragic death in 2010. And there was a time back in 2001 that Corey Haim and Corey Feldman were supposed to be at WonderCon in Oakland, California. And I went to it wanting to meet both of them. And I remember I was really excited, though, to meet Corey Feldman. And I was so disappointed when he didn't show up. I don't know if he went the next day, but the day that I went, which was a Saturday, I believe, he wasn't there. But Corey Haim was, and I remember how terrible he looked. I just remember seeing him, and at that time I hadn't seen him in a long time, and if I hadn't seen him sitting at his table with pictures of him from, stills from his other movies, I wouldn't have recognized him. He was very pale, he looked very, like, high. He just did not look like the Corey Haim I knew from the movies. And I still regret to this day not going up and saying hi to Corey Haim and telling him how much his acting in movies, meant to me as a kid, because I was a fan of his, maybe not as much as Corey Feldman, but, the fact that he died as tragically as he did, really just, it makes me sad now that I didn't go over there and say hi to him. But, I was disappointed because Feldman wasn't there. But to read what happened to both these guys, of course this book is specifically about Feldman, but there are, parts of the book that focus on Haim and his demons, and how they both kind of, were bad for each other in terms of, them sort of being on drugs together and getting into even harder stuff than what initially started out as just experimentation. It's a terrific read, even though it is very disturbing, but he talks about everything from his career to his abusive child, to being abused as a child, to his relationship with Michael Jackson, to Steven Spielberg, Richard Donner, Joel Schumacher, working with those tremendous directors, Joe Dante, what happened to him on movie sets when he would show up completely strung out on drugs, how his drug use almost destroyed his career completely, how the birth of his son, really changed his life. It's a really great book, and it's really sad what happened to him. And the book is, just after reading it yesterday, it just stayed with me after reading it. It really bothered me, and I hope that the people that did this to him, to Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, these people that molested them and raped them when they were children, get brought to justice in some way, shape, or form. I mean, anybody that hurts a child, it's inexcusable in my opinion, and they need to be brought to justice, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But excellent read. If you're a fan of Corey Feldman, he's very brave to put this book out, and I recommend people checking it out. It's an excellent, excellent read, even though it is very disturbing at times. There are some happy parts to the book, and he does a really good job of keeping the pace of it very fast. I mean, it's like I said, I read it. It took me like 3 hours to read it. I just had to do it over a 3-day period because I was reading it on my lunch breaks. But excellent book. I totally recommend it if you're a fan of Corey Feldman and Corey Haim and those great films from the 80s. I completely support it 100%. So just real quick, just wanted to talk about that book, and I hope everyone's doing well, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good evening. Peace.